problem anymore. All right, guys. How you doing? Chad Wesley Smith here, Juggernaut Training Systems, Strong 360, joined by the incomparable Rhino.
Incompetent.
Incontinent?
Not
yet. Not yet.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
Stan Efferding. We're here at Become Unstoppable Seminar 4, and was lucky enough to have Stan join us. He kind of texted me one day like, hey, Biggs, see you at the seminar.
Yeah.
Very honored to have you come, and I think certainly a great testament to you that always trying to learn something. You're at the Kekliab seminar.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
30 years, I'm still learning, changing all the time. And he had a great lineup too, had some really smart guys. This didn't exist when I was in college. We didn't have the internet, and so we just didn't have access to that kind of information. I think young lifters today, I think it's borne itself out by the quality of the lifters at such a young age, because they've had access to so much great information. I think that helps you become successful faster, get better than what you might otherwise have become. So I'm always in here trying to dig through and find tidbits, and even to reinforce the things that you've already learned, just so that you stay focused on what's important. And that's, generally it boils down to a few key components. People spend a lot of time focused on all the little things.
Yeah. And
just to keep reiterating that and hearing that gets you to focus more on the things that really matter. And that's good about coming in and talking to these guys and seeing that that's where they spend the most of their time too, the return on investment.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing's real important for people to understand, because it is great that there's so much more information accessible to people. I've been writing my own program since I started lifting, more or less, so since I was 14 years old. So for 15 years, even 15 years ago, you couldn't just Google it and all these different training programs pop up. And I did a lot of stuff. I just did tons of training, so a lot of it happened to be good. I think the internet in some ways has almost done a disservice to new lifters by presenting them with so much information that that there's no way for a beginner to filter through it.
Yeah, because it's not prioritized in order of importance or value or return on your investment. It's all great information. A lot of it's really good information. Great studies and great opinions from great lifters. But how do you prioritize it? What are the action items? Do you get distracted from what's really important by focusing on what's a very minimal return?
Yeah, they want to argue over that last 5% of things,
or 1%.
Yeah, when they're not doing the first 95 or 99 right. And it's very hard to know who to listen to, because I think social media has certainly lowered the barrier of entry to expertise.
Sure. Yeah, if you've got a great ass, you're a personal trainer.
Yeah,
you're a coach.
And I'm fortunate enough to both have a great ass.
Yes.
And I guess know a few things about lifting. But if you could go back, you're 47 or 48?
Almost 48. Yeah, next week.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Probably happy birthday by the time I put this up.
Yep.
But and so tell us about how you got your start in lifting.
I just lifted heavy because I thought it would make me bigger, and I wanted to be a bodybuilder.
And you were too. Your coach told you were too skinny.
Yeah, I weighed 140 pounds
for soccer.
I was 17 when I got to college. So I just started lifting, and to me, everything was about how heavy I could lift, because I thought the more weight I could lift, the bigger I would get. It took me a while to learn how to eat enough and how to train often enough with enough volume to put on some size. But I don't think I ever really understood that concept well enough or applied it well enough until I met and trained with Flex in 2009, after almost 25 years of training, where I completely committed myself to a hypertrophy phase. And I don't think I ever learned enough about powerlifting, specializing for competition, until I trained with Mark Bell in 2009, after almost 20 years of competing in powerlifting. So I'm the first to say that, with everything I've done and everything I've learned, I think having good people, reaching out to great coaches, can save you a lot of time and money. I think that's really important. When I see events like this and the Kekliab seminar and Boris Shako, I just want to let everybody know, hey, this can save you, this can make you a better athlete, save you a lot of time and money, you know, make you a better coach. So I'm surprised that more people, I mean, we had a full house today, but you know, I'm just surprised that more people don't take advantage of these opportunities. You know, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just like, everybody should be here. Is this my mind?
Yeah, guys who have told 2,300 are coming to learn something new.
Exactly, and I did, and I do, and that's why I come to these things, and that's why I go to great coaches. That's why, you know, I collaborate with you and Mark and Flex, and for everything I try and do. If you want to do it at a really high level, you know, I think you need somebody to take an objective look at you, because I don't think people are very good at doing that for themselves.
It's hard to admit something you're bad at. You know, it's easy to keep doing the stuff that you like.
People tend to do as they've always done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could go back, let's say just to 2009, just to the start of, you know, I think the time where probably most people started to know you from YouTube videos and stuff, the Rhino,
yeah,
world's strongest bodybuilder, and give him some advice, what would that advice be?
Oh, I think I got some great advice. I think that I think everything went about as well as it could have. I can't think of anything I'd change, because again, in 2009 is when I trained with Flex Wheeler, and in 2009 is when I trained with Mark Bell. So I had some of the best information out there, and the results were extraordinary. You know, from being just a you know, maybe a national competitor to turning pro, from totaling 2,070 to totaling 2226 and ultimately 2,300, just over the course of less than a year. You know, for the almost a 200-pound gain in strength. This is from a trained athlete who's been training for over 20 years, heavy weights, competed in powerlifting meets. So, you know, I would say to do exactly what I did, and that's what I try and get across to people who watch, is find a great coach. They're out there, you know, and find a great team. That's one of the huge things about when I trained with Flex, is he was overlooking me every day, and I was training with Keith. This is another piece. We talk about consistency and we talk about effort. The two umbrella items over top of everything else. Consistency and effort. And that's why I performed so well with Flex. There wasn't anything you know, secret, any groundbreaking thing that I did differently. I just trained harder, and I had someone challenging me every day. Same thing with Mark's group. I went up there and I trained harder than I did before. You know, Mark kept adding weight, and whereas I might not have added it myself.
Yeah.
And great lifters were there, great squatters, great deadlifters, great benchers. You know, Dan Green had come over and trained. There were a few guys there who squatted over 800. There were a few guys there that benched close to 6. And that's different,
Definitely,
than most teams and most gyms. So that was probably, if I had to boil it down to two really key components, it was having a great coach and having a great team. The intensity at which we trained was extraordinary.
I think the stuff with the team, kind of to a point I talked about in my presentation today, getting around those other competitors, it's like it changes your expectation of, you know, all right, I thought that 500 was good, but all these guys do 550, so now I think 550 is good. This is my, if I want to be good, this is what I need to expect to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is when you see it happen, it becomes believable.
Yes.
And then you can do it. You know, we were talking yesterday, I was talking with Greg, and he said, that's probably one of the biggest reasons Westside Barbell's been so successful, because they had so many savage athletes training together that it raised everybody's level of performance.
Yeah.
I don't think you could boil that down to the program necessarily. You know, sure, those are important to a point, but I think the overreaching factor was the intensity that those guys trained at. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and intensity, not in the percent of 1 rep max idea, but intensity and the focus in the effort idea.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Derek Kendall, Eric Lillibridge, when they were training together, great example of that too. These were both, you know, phenomenally strong guys already, and you saw in that 9-month time, maybe 1 year time, that Eric went from squatting
900 to 1,000.
Yeah.
Or you're right, high 8s to
like
to high 9s.
to 975, 1,000.
Yeah.
And you don't get that much stronger in a year. It just, you know, it just changed the
No, there's no
expectation.
program. There's no boxes to check that's going to get you there.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. The only thing that's going to get you there is the level of competition. Is your ability or someone else's ability to extract from you that a whole nother level of taking your body somewhere it's never been before, about not having any self-imposed limitations, or like you say, seeing that everybody else is doing it, you know, so I can do it.
Yeah. That idea of self-imposed limitation, it's like, you know, 4-minute mile. Let's say in strongman, you know, Bill Kazmaier had the record. The log press record was 352 or 354 from like 1980 to 1999.
Yeah.
That was the record. To think that, and now it's 500.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, and there were all these guys sort of flirting with the 400 pounds for a while. One guy did it. 6 months later, 10 guys had done it.
Yeah.
Did those 10 guys all of a sudden get stronger? No, it was they had, you know, this landmark weight had just was a block in their head, and they couldn't overcome it. You know?
And the people understand it at a local level too.
Mm-hmm.
They understand the barrier of, say, 315 or 405 on the bench. Everybody sees that as a, you know, as this barrier, this ceiling.
Yeah.
And it tends to loom over them. But when you're training with great athletes, and you keep pushing the envelope, and suddenly you're passing that up and more. So,
I think, you know, one of the things that's always been so impressive about you to me, and, you know, one of the reasons I really look up to you is it's one thing to succeed as a lifter, but, you know, you've been a successful businessman, you know, bodybuilding, powerlifting, all across the board. How are you able to, you know, strike this kind of balance in your life?
you know, again, consistency and intensity, and I apply those across the board. Part of being able to do that, the logistics of that, is just good time management. Having goals, having a plan. So, you know, I'll write everything out, I'll track it very well. So I know, you know, it's one thing, you say it's 99%, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So I'm like a lot of people, I have these crazy ideas all the time. I have these dreams or goals or whatever. But, you know, a goal without a plan is just a dream. Mm-hmm. And so when I would focus on something, I would make that the end goal, and then I would have to create a plan to get there, a plan of action. And that's probably why I've been most successful, is because of the logistics. I was able to plan, you know, whether it be in bodybuilding, every meal, every workout, you know, all those things, and working them in, or even in business. You know, I would have a plan to execute every day. You know, whether it was a sales business, how many calls you had to make, or you know, it's just an evolution. You know, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and that was always my thought. There are no overnight successes. It all takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but consistency. Just like with bodybuilding, you know, you got to go train, you know, maybe 2 hours a day. And I've said this before, if anybody committed the same amount of consistency and effort and time management and you know, like meal planning and cardio and all this stuff that they do for bodybuilding into any income producing venture, and did it with the same amount of effort and consistency and coordination, they'd be a millionaire in 5 years. I really believe that. It's just a matter of, do you put 2 hours a day into the success of a business that you've created? Yeah. You know, or 3 or 5 or 10, you know, whatever it takes. But do you do that consistently over the long term? Yeah,
and then stacking those short-term goals of 5 pounds on the bar, of 1 pound of muscle, you know, stacking them on top of each other and on top of each other and on top of each other until you get significant change.
Yeah, they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity, and I've never believed that it was, you know, luck. I've always believed it was preparation. And so, you know, you always have to keep doing all the stuff. You got to keep going to the gym. You got to keep, you know, if that's your goal, and do it in a progressive nature. That's what we talked about today in terms of intensity or effort. Is that if you're just going to do the same that you did yesterday, then long term there's probably not going to be much growth out of that. And so there has to be some component in there that allows you to keep growing. If in powerlifting, it's going to be, adding weight, or cycling your program so that there's just more results from each workout. And, I just applied that to everything. I also believe that you can be good at anything, but you can't be good at everything. And so I really did only powerlift when I powerlifted, and only did bodybuilding when I was doing bodybuilding. And everybody said, how do you do both? Well, I don't. I specialized when it became necessary. They're complementary to a point, but I did have to specialize and do specialize. And the same thing in business. I mean, you can't be all things to all people. You can't, run around trying to run 10 businesses. I just stayed really focused on that. And so I think that's one of the main things about success in all of those areas is to choose a finite number of goals, things that you can handle, and then be consistent and pour a lot of planning and time management into those things. And I think over time, you're bound to be if you don't give up. If you don't give up, a lot of people have little bumps in the road here and there, particularly in business. A lot of them fail. You just have to be persistent after that.
So what are the goals that you're persistent after now?
Well, I have 2 kids now, so nothing else seems to be all that important. It's a weird situation to not really give a shit how much you squat or how much you bench. I've got a 3.5-year-old daughter and a 1.5-year-old son, so really everything's focused on them. And anything I want to do tends to take away from that, because you know how much time it takes to be a great athlete. It can be a very selfish pursuit. You got to sleep more, you got to eat better, you got to train more, you got to do your mobility, you got to do your rehab, you got to all that stuff, and that starts to soak up an enormous amount of time. The better you try and get, the more time it takes to get better, and so that's all a distraction. So I do the best I can now, but it's a sideshow. It's a hobby. I love to train. I just love something I enjoy doing. But the focus now is on the kids, and I own a company, well, 2 companies now that provide me a good living. But I started a venture with the cooler that I just enjoy it. I like it. It's a neat invention. People enjoy it. And so I've been out running around pimping my cooler for the last year, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But I keep it in perspective. I'm not. I don't leverage myself to the point on these things that it can possibly compromise my ability to. I'm more risk averse now. Let's say, because I've got diapers and the rest of that stuff I got to worry about, and I don't want to leverage any of that like the way I used to. It was all or nothing. I'd double or nothing all the time in business and in training. It was all balls to the wall, and so. Nowadays I'm a little more risk averse. I don't want to have other people potentially, experience any of the downside of potentially not reaching your goals.
So where can people go learn more about the cooler?
Thecooler.com with a K. Thecooler.com. Yeah, it's been a fun project. So, and we're already just in a few short months out on the market. We're already in Vitamin Shop, 24-Hour Fitness, bodybuilding.com, a lot of the big. Or the smaller nutrition store chains, and then the mom and pop shops around the country and gyms, etc. So it's been pretty popular. We're working on some more things. Dick's Sporting Goods is, I think, on the horizon for us, and we're developing a second evolution of the cooler, the Cooler 2.0, and a third evolution of the cooler for a little smaller one, the Cooler Sport for women and smaller kids. So it's just, it's a fun project. I'm enjoying it for the first time.
Well,
I've never...
The Cooler XL for the people who want to embrace the super heavyweight lifestyle.
There's 2 coolers. I've never made a living off the sport. I've never thought that I would be able to. It's very difficult to do, particularly bodybuilding. Over the years, it's become less and less fruitful for bodybuilders. You kind of have to create your own products and market now, as opposed to depending on somebody to sponsor you. There's very little of that out there anymore. So this is the first time within the industry I've had a product, in the health and fitness industry, that that I could take to the market, and I'm proud of it, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the people and the questions, and motivating and helping folks through my experience. It's a lot more fun than the companies that I run to make a living. So it's not always just about money.
Yeah, I know you've been hitting the the expos and
Yep.
all that stuff hard.
Yep.
We're going to have our first Juggernaut booth at LA Fit Expo. That's kind of almost just a practice one.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the Arnold and have 3 booths. So like a triple booth and do exhibitions and stuff.
That's great.
I'm dreading it a little bit.
I know.
It's a long weekend.
It's a lot of out of pocket. You got to stand on concrete for 14 hours,
Yeah.
and it can be draining. But so much has happened in the fitness industry over the last 10 years. It's just exploded in growth. You know, with the advent of CrossFit, the growth of the raw lifting, the growth of the physique and figure, bikini. There's just so many more eyeballs, so many more athletes, and so many more good athletes. You know, as more people participate, you start to see the outliers.
Yeah.
Pop up here and there, the Jesse Norrises of the world,
Yeah.
and all those guys. You start to realize there's some talented individuals out there, you know, and it's not such a small little group anymore. They're of a variety of talents, you know, whether it be the weightlifting or the CrossFit or the powerlifting, you know, the physique world. And so it's exciting when you go to those venues and you see that all of those people have a common interest, an investment in succeeding in their own personal sport pursuit, whether it be, you know, any of those disciplines we just discussed. But I enjoy it. I like it. And what's funny is there's so much crossover.
Yes.
You get a CrossFitter come over and ask you about powerlifting.
Yep.
You know, you get everybody has kind of the same interest in terms of performance.
Yeah.
You know, human physical performance, and you know, whether it be nutrition, whether it be injury rehab or mobility, whether it be you know, training, and whether the training be for physique or for power or for endurance. You know, all of it kind of comes together, and everybody's kind of fueling off and feeding off of this, all this information that we opened this segment with.
Yeah, and that's really one of the big goals I have with Juggernaut, is to, you know, show people and unify those sports so people can know, you know, that CrossFitters have something to learn from powerlifters, and powerlifters have something to learn from bodybuilders, and bodybuilders have something to learn from physical therapists. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people get so dogmatic about and you know, create their identity within that sport, and they don't want to. Yeah. They think it diminishes them somehow to learn from outside of that realm.
Yeah.
You know, but that's why I want to have weekends like this where we can put these people, you know, weightlifters, powerlifters, physical therapists, professors, all in the same room, because they all have something to learn from each other.
Well, and the most important, I think, factors to be successful in any of those sports are all the same.
Yeah.
You know, I own a company, and I have an IT guy, mm-hmm. I have an attorney, you know, I have an accountant, and you can't wear all those hats, and you need those experts. You know, just like when I reached out to Flex for bodybuilding or for Mark for powerlifting, you need those people on your team, and that's what you know, I think the more forward-looking athletes realize is that I could learn something from this that might have, you know, benefit me in my sport. And I was shocked to see just, you know, 5 years ago or a little less, you guys being so involved in the CrossFit industry, because of course you mentioned there's some dogma, but it's embraced now, and there's so much crossover now. The last meet I went to, I think it was Jesse Burdick's meet up near Oakland. Mm-hmm. Half the competitors were women, and the vast majority of them were CrossFitters in a powerlifting meet. So you see so many people, you know, they love, like we do, the iron, you know, the lifting, whatever it may be, they just love it. And it's been a passion of mine for 30 years, since 17, since I first touched the bar. So I'm lucky in that regard, because I don't have to do it to reach a goal. I enjoy it, and that's, you know, it's been my, as C.T. Fletcher would say, my magnificent obsession all my life. That's the one thing, the constant, through everything else that I've done in my life, that I've always enjoyed doing.
Speaking of CT, you guys have a joint venture going there in Vegas?
Yeah, CT owns Iron Addicts Gym, and he allowed me to bring the franchise to Las Vegas. I partnered with an existing gym owner and brought them the name, and we rebranded an existing gym, which is really, in my mind, the only real powerlifting gym in Vegas. There's not a lot of powerlifters in Vegas. I was surprised to see that when I arrived there just 3 years ago. There's not a lot of powerlifters, and there's no complete gym until this one. I mean, we've got 4 deadlift floors, dumbbells up to 200 pounds, 2 monoliths, chains and bands and tendo units, and everything you can imagine that you'd need, specialty bars, Olympic plates, rubber plates, bumpers. It's the only complete powerlifting that just focuses on powerlifting and bodybuilding in the whole city. And, we're just now trying to build a better team, because I think that environment's huge.
Definitely.
So I've been able to train with, Eric Spoto historically, but he tore his shoulder, but he's on the mend now, he's on the comeback. And then of course Brittany and Stephanie, who've done some savage stuff lately, a couple of girls who deadlift over 500 pounds. So but there isn't a huge group of great powerlifters in that city. There's a few, people spread out. And so that's what we're missing there, I think, as of now. But when people come there from out of town, they know it's Iron Addicts gym, it's a couple miles from the airport. They can pop in there and get a session in. Hit me up on your way into town, stanefferding.com, or just email me or something. And I always try and make it over and meet folks. Almost every day I go over there, there's a taxi in the parking lot, and somebody from somewhere. It's a Jersey or Miami, or it doesn't matter, if we're out of the country, or it's Australia, Germany. There's always new people there, nearly on a daily basis, certainly every weekend. And it's fun to meet them and train with them.
Definitely. We got to train there over Olympia weekend, do some heavy squatting with me and Big Boy and the Pit Bull.
Yep.
So it's a good time. So great gym if you guys are in Vegas, Iron Addicts Las Vegas. That's the Instagram too, Iron Addicts LV.
Iron Addicts LV, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, great spot.
So if you're in Vegas, go check out Iron Addicts, thecooler.com, cooler with a K, at Stan Efferding on Instagram.
On Instagram, yeah, stanefferding.com, the website. It's all there.
All right, man. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure to go check out all Stan's stuff, and always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. I'm Chad Wesley Smith.
I'm Marisa Inda.
I'm Maddie Rogers.
I'm T. Popula.
I'm Becca Day.
And I'm on my grind.